So, good evening, friends. Meeting again in the session of philosophy, and we are discussing regarding the 8th chapter from the Stuart Close philosophy, that is the General Pathology of Homoeopathy. He has highlighted many aspects of pathology in relation with the homeopathy, and he tried to explain that all those concepts which are there in the homeopathy are accepted by modern pathology very later. He started with the bacteriology and its relation with homeopathy. Then he has explained about the doctrine of latency, which is also followed in modern pathology. Then he has tried to explain about the concept of metastasis, which is there in the homeopathy and its relation with the pathology. Then toxicological theory of diseases, which was Hahnemann have highlighted, and all three types of toxins or poisons, and how to tackle them, how one should approach homeopathic management of that. Also, he has tried to explain over there. So, all topics related with the pathology and its correlation with the homeopathy, he tried his level best to explain in detail. The last part which we have started about this in this chapter is related with the idiosyncrasy and drug diseases. And while explaining this, we have compared the idiosyncrasy with the allergy. Idiosyncrasy is nothing but these are the peculiar corporeal constitutions in which the immune reactions are very specific to a certain ingredient of the food or certain ingredients in the environment, to which rest of the human beings are normal. They don't never gets affected, but these are the people who shows a very fixed reaction to that, and that is not changing or that is not changeable. So basically, in whenever the idiosyncrasy is there, idiosyncrasy is always there in the state of health. Comparatively, allergy is always there in the state of disease. Second important difference is that in idiosyncrasy, the reactions are very fixed. In case of allergy, reactions are variable. Sometimes it might be itching, sometimes it might be urticaria, sometimes it might be angioneurotic edema. It is variable in case of allergy. Third important difference is that idiosyncrasy is 90 maximum time or 99% it is inherited. It is inherited and very occasionally it is acquired. As compared, allergy is acquired always. So basically, these are the big differences between this, what is the allergy and idiosyncrasy, and he has tried to explain the idiosyncratic individuals who are called to be a good provers, because these are the people who proves the symptomatology in a great manner. Maximum symptoms they can produce during the proving, and which is useful for us for the purpose of making the materia medica. And that's why idiosyncratic individuals are called to be best provers. He has tried to explain how to understand these reactions and how to tackle these reactions, and how one should be cautious enough if they are using any material drugs to those patients. Giving a material dose to those patients always creates the problem. Giving the material dose sometimes exaggerates so severe reaction, it can lead to the death in such types of patient. And that's why giving larger doses always affects those persons. We were discussing it, and part of it we have finished. We are there on the page number 112 from the Stuart Close, and first 4 paragraphs we have finished. Let us go ahead with the same topic, idiosyncrasy and drug diseases, the remaining part which we are going to finish in today's session. In the 5th paragraph, he says, other patients manifest a morbid susceptibility to the agents and influences not classified as medicinal. For example, a person cannot eat some common article of food without suffering. Apples, peaches, strawberries, fish, shellfish, onions, potatoes, milk, fats, or butter, etc., affect certain people unpleasantly in the most peculiar fashion. Then there is a There are idiosyncrasies of smell. One cannot bear the odor of violets. Violets, it is a violet color plant which is having typical smell, that is violets. Another of lavender. Lavender is also one of the plant which is having a good scent. Another of any flowers when he see. So he is explaining that idiosyncrasy is not only for the food products. It is related with the smell. It is related with the food products. It is related with certain beverages. But the reactions in idiosyncrasy, they are always fixed. So if the person is having very specific reaction to any ingredient of the food, for example, in thuja, we know that onions aggravates or onions produces diarrhea in thuja. If patient is very sensitive to the onions or he is idiosyncratic toward the onion, he always gets the same reaction, diarrhea, after consuming the onion. And unless and until we give the proper similimum like thuja to this patient, this idiosyncrasy cannot be tackled. Idiosyncrasy can be tackled but cannot be completely removed because it is inherited. It is constitutional. And that's why one must know all those things. One of my patient always gets an attack of hay fever and asthma if he rides behind the horse. The odor and exhalation from the perspiring horse are noxious to him. So he is giving different examples of idiosyncrasy. Woman, hay fever victim has a fit of violent trembling and aggravation of all her symptoms if she comes in proximity with the cat. So she used to get, whenever she comes in contact with the cat, she used to get hay fever. Another example he has mentioned related with the hay fever caused because of the horse, the perspiration of horse. These examples of idiosyncrasy are quite distinct from hysteria, and the general oversensitiveness found in neurasthenics and broken down constitutions, where every little annoyance seems to burden too great to bear, and even sense is painfully acute. Certain patients have hysterical reactions. That is also one of the type of idiosyncratic reactions. So slightest thing happens and they react in a hysterical manner. That is also one of the example of hysteria which he is explaining over there. The fundamental cause of every idiosyncrasy is morphological unbalance. Morphological unbalance. What is morphology? Morphology is the development, constitutional development. So morphology develops inside the womb. When the fertilized egg starts developing, at that time this morphology happens to be there, that is the development of that fetus. And during that, if unbalance develops, this is the reason. That is an organic state in which, through the excess or defect in development, there results excess or defect in function with corresponding degree of hyperexcitability or non-excitability. And this sentence is given by Rice. Rice means it is the name of, it is not rice means shovel. So he has said that this is fundamental defect which happens during the time of development. Without pausing to set forth more fully the modern scientific explanation of these phenomena, we may say that idiosyncrasy, from the standpoint of homeopathic prescriber, is often the key to the difficult case. Viewed as modalities, these peculiarities, which are merely vagaries to the average practitioner, take on a certain degree of importance as an indication for the remedy. Properly and interpreted, Properly interpreted and classified, they sometimes rank as generals, expressing and representing peculiarity of the patient himself, of a case as a whole. They aid in individualizing the case and differentiating between two or more similar remedies. Thus, in a certain puzzling case, the symptoms, aggravation from onions, discovered only after the case had baffled for several weeks, led to the selection of thuja, which cured the case. So he has given example. What is the importance of idiosyncrasy to the homeopath? Many times, if you get such types of specific idiosyncratic reactions, then we can choose the remedy on the basis of that, because idiosyncrasies are individualistic. If the individual is suffering from the onion gets aggravated, immediately which it stuck to our mind. Yes, this is the modality of the thuja, and this modality differentiates one individual from the another individual. So it helps in the prescription. It is very specific. If you are able to catch such types of idiosyncrasies, they always helps to individualize the patient. Idiosyncrasies are inherited and acquired. They represent the morbid susceptibility the more to some particular agent or influence. Of their causes, there is little more to say, except that drug idiosyncrasies, often inherited and acquired, appear sometimes to be due to the previous abuse of the drug, to which a morbid susceptibility now exists, and that the remainder have their origin in what Hahnemann called the sorry constitution. Many persons who have poisoned by the drug are afterwards hypersensitive to that drug, a condition known as anaphylaxis. A familiar example is susceptibility to the rust or IV poisoning of those who have once been poisoned, especially if their initial attack was treated topically by external remedy. Such persons are poisoned by slightest contact of the plant or even by passing in its vicinity without contact. In such cases, the disappearance of the original external manifestation of the disease is followed by setting up a constitutional susceptibility which renders them peculiarly vulnerable, not only to the particular drugs concerned, but to the diseases to which the drug corresponds homeopathically. They are illustrations of metastasis which is regarded by some as being due to the suppression or primary form of the disease by injurious topical palliative treatment. This view is based upon the direct observation and is sustained by analogy with the well-known serious results of accidental or incidental disappearances or repercussion of external symptoms if in the acute eruptive diseases such as measles and scarlet fever. He is giving you one more example. What he says, how this idiosyncrasy develops. First important thing, generally they are inherited, very occasionally they are acquired. How one acquires the such types of susceptibility or adhesion? Reason is that if he has given simple example of rustox. Rustox name is, what is the rustox name? It is a poison oak or a poison ivy. This is the poison when it is consumed or when you get in touch with the rust plant, you develop a typical erythematous rash with a severe urticaria, with severe itching. If that rash or that urticaria or that erythematous condition, if you treat it by local means, then there is a big possibility that you develop a idiosyncrasy towards that ingredient. Thereafter, whenever you comes in focus and comes in contact with the rust plant, even you have not, it has not touched your body, but you are just passing from the rust plant, you are immediately getting suffered from it. These are the things, because of such a separation or palliative measures, many times, many types of idiosyncrasies develops. And this result, this example is the commonest example with which it can be easily understood. Patient talks to you, doctor, I never had such problem before. I used to eat the onions very commonly without any suffering. But what has happened to me, I don't know. But nowadays I can't tolerate onion. So why it has been developed? How it has been developed? Mostly these are the products of psoric miasm. Psora is in background. That is the basic reason, and because of which such types of idiosyncrasies can be developed later, and those are called as acquired idiosyncrasies. If they are inherited from previous generation, then the question is different. But when they are acquired later in life, they are generally the products of psoric miasm. Where the initial attack is perfectly cured homeopathically by internal medicine, such results never follow. So if the person who is having some external manifestation of the acute disease, He has given example measles. What happens in measles? Measles, there is first cough, coryza and cough which starts, then there is a fever, and after fever there is a rash which appears, which is typical maculopapular rash, a rosy hue, and it appears all over the body and person starts itching over there. Now, you apply something locally for that and you try to suppress that rash with the help of some local measure. So if you use any local measure and if it has been get suppressed, then you develop a psoriatic miasm. The initial reaction which was appearing on the skin now turns inside, affects the internal organs, producing the internal violent reaction, ultimately expressing in a sensitivity, a great sensitivity. Many times, such types of individuals can develop similar types of idiosyncrasies to any ingredient in the, and till that period he was normal towards that ingredient, now starts behaving in an exaggerated manner, and this is what is the example of acquired idiosyncrasy. So idiosyncrasy might be inherited, might be acquired, and this is acquired because of this soric entity. But what he says, where the initial attack is perfectly cured homeopathically. So if the measles is happened there and you treat it homeopathically, finding it out right remedy for that case, for that specific state. For example, it might be belladonna. You have given belladonna and whole disease vanished. There are very less chances that it gets suppressed, and then there are very less chances that idiosyncrasy develops. Investigation shows that some cases of inherited idiosyncrasy and morbid susceptibility to the drugs are traceable to abuse of those drugs by parents or ancestors. So now you can see this idiosyncrasies in the patients in which it is inherited. So there was no past history, but there is a family history that there was abuse of such drugs in the parents, either one of the parents or grandparents, and it is inherited from the past generation. So this can happen. This relation has been observed particularly in cases of two drugs, sulfur and mercury. A case occurred in my practice in which such violent and sudden aggravation followed by administration of high potency of mercury that the patient's life was endangered. He afterward asked if he had been given mercury and said that if he had never been able to take mercury in any form. He had been salivated by mercury in youth, and his father and mother before him had been heavy users of this drug. The cases occur in which even amalgam fillings in the teeth cause symptoms of mercurial poisoning and from absorption of infinitesimal quantities of mercury. So he is giving example of mercury, how this has been inherited. The parents used mercury for their problems, and this child who developed the reaction or hypersensitivity to the mercury. This is inherited. This is carried forward from the past generation to the present generation. Many times you get such types of idiosyncrasies in your life, in your patients. It has been held that homeopathic correspondence of sulfur to such vast number of symptoms and diseases, in partly due to the widespread abuse of sulfur by preceding generation. In other words, that the commonly found sulfur symptoms which make it curative in so many conditions represent a vast proving of sulfur upon the human race, pursued for several generations, which have created a general morbid susceptibility to the drug. The same might be said of many other drugs, but such an idea interesting because novel and practically suggestive should not be given too much weight, lest it lead us astray into the realm of speculation. One more example of sulfur he is mentioning. Do you know there was a remedy or medicine in allopathy which was used rampantly in previous generation? That is sulfur. It was used very strongly when it was introduced. There was a drug called to be a Septran, combination of trimethoprim and sulfamethoxazole. It is sulfaramide. Many patients used to get a skin manifestations, allergies towards the sulfa. If the parents have used the sulfa in lot of times, the child born to them might develop a very much sensitivity to sulfa. And those people used to react in an exaggerated manner to a sulfur or sulfur. So many times this has been a product of more use of such types of drugs by the previous generation developed the idiosyncrasy towards it. And this is the commonest example of it. He tried to explain why these idiosyncrasies are inherited in the closely related to the subject of drug diseases. Now he is turning towards the drug diseases. In closely related subject of drug diseases, we are on safer ground. The subject of drug diseases has been particular and perennial interest for the homeopathician because his professional life is devoted largely to the observation and study of the phenomenon produced and cured in human organism by drug. It comes before him at every point in his career, and he more clearly than any other realizes its importance. The homeopathic mathematica, from which he derives his knowledge of the term remedy used for the cure of the disease, is made up principally of collection of symptoms derived from healthy persons who have intentionally taken small doses of the drugs and carefully observed and recorded their effects under the direction of trained observers. What he is saying, he has explained now the concept of drug diseases. What he is explaining, there it has been observed many times that many varieties of drug diseases develops in the human organism. It is one must know that it is a drug disease. Patient comes to your OPD for rheumatoid arthritis, and it is there since last 10 years. And patient comes whose face is fully swollen like this, the cheeks comes up like this. If you are knowing that these are the effects of the corticosteroids, then you can ask them whether you are using any steroids for treatment of it. Because if you know, then you know that this is what happening because of corticosteroid. You must know what medicines the patient has consumed, because many of the times the original features of the diseases are getting mixed with the drug diseases. And well, allopathic medicine, which are used in larger material doses, always produces their own effects on the body. Many times you get that. A patient who comes to you all of a sudden with a typical signs, his eyes getting white and he is looking up and he's showing very extraordinary reactions on the face. Such types of reactions are there. You must be able to catch it is extrapyramidal reaction. You must able to ask, have you consumed any medicine? Because many times metoclopramide drug can cause such types of reactions, or sometimes in allopathy there was one trifluperazine or remedy was sequel or like that. It used to produce such types of reaction. If you know, then you never find it out a remedy in homeopathy. You must find it out that what is the antidote for that, because it is not the original feature of the patient. It is these are the drug diseases, and if drug diseases happens to be there, they are always the if they are always the product of material drug diseases, it should be antidoted. Then you must know what is an antidote. Then you must treat that with the help of Finargan, because you must know that this is the antidote for such a thing. If you know it, you can treat. If you don't know, you can't. And for that purpose, one must have knowledge of the drug diseases also. It is not just homeopathic remedy. You must have knowledge of all drugs which are used in allopathy. At least you find it out. You must have app in which you can find it out. Yes, this is the drug patient has consumed. What are the side effects? If you are able to catch that, then you cannot mix the original features of the disease with the drug disease, and it is needed. So this is what he is trying to explain over there, and he explains it with multiple examples. I think we'll stop over here, and tomorrow we'll continue with it. Not tomorrow, we're going to meet on Monday, because the many things still he has to explain about it regarding the drug diseases. So we're going to learn many aspects of drug diseases in this chapter. So we'll continue on about it on Monday's session. Till that period, in the evening, we'll have a short remedy again. Agnus Castus. We're going to learn at 8 o'clock. Be there to attend. I will going to share few cases of Agnus Castus along with the remedy from Allen's genome. So that's all for today. Thank you very much. If you have any query, we can have a discussion. Otherwise, we'll meet at 8 o'clock. So thank you being there. We'll meet in the evening.